Hi everybody, it's Teresa with threesticksin.com. I've gotten some requests in the comments to share some great home decor DIY projects with you. So that's what I've got on tap for today. I am making sham pillowcases. And so pillowcases for shams can be as decorative as you want it, because even though they're big, they're the size of a regular pillow, they're not meant to be slept on. They're meant to be pretty and cover up the pillow that you actually do sleep on that's covered in drool and nobody needs to see it. So the room that I'm making these for is my guest room, and that I have like very vintage and homey, kind of like you're visiting your grandma. And so I actually went to the thrift store and I got a vintage sheet and cut that apart to make my shams. You'll need to measure them to the size of your pillow. I'm using a standard sized pillow, and so the measurements that I came up with is for this front piece here with the seam allowances, it measures 27 inches long and 21 inches wide. So basically what I did was measure the size of my pillow and then add an inch so that I could have half an inch on each side to make my seams. So you'll need a front piece that way. Oh, and if you're using a sheet like I am, you might find that it's too thin. You can see right through it. And so I actually doubled mine up. I've got 2 pieces for every piece just to make it thicker. So that's the front. For the back, you'll need 2 smaller pieces that will kind of overlap to hold the pillow in. And because of that, this makes a perfect first sewing project. If you've never sewn and you want to try it, this is a great project to start because it's all straight lines. You don't have to worry about zippers or buttons or anything. The only way we're going to close this pillow inside is just by folding the pieces over on each other. So these pieces here, let me check my measurements. It's 21 inches this way, just like the front, and then across it's 16 inches. So once you get those 3 pieces cut, that's all you need. The first thing you do is fold your edge over twice. This is about 1/4 inch, and so I folded it over once and folded it over again and then ironed that to get nice and crisp. And then I'm gonna sew that down on my sewing machine. And when you've done that, it looks like this, okay? So then you're gonna put your your front and your back pieces together. So here on my table, I've got this front piece, and I'm going to, this piece will already be sewn, but we're just gonna pretend that is so that I can show you. And you're gonna put the right sides together. The sides you want showing when it's on the bed should be touching each other when you lay this out. So, okay, I've got that all set, and I'm gonna line the edges of my back piece up with the edges of my front piece and see how that allows this to overlap. So then I'm gonna pin that all the way around so that it doesn't wiggle while I'm getting it on the sewing machine. And now, this is what it looks like. So you can see how those pieces overlap a good 3 inches, and that'll make it so that the pillow stays nice and covered and you won't have to worry about zippers. One last step here, I cut the corners off diagonally, because when you turn it inside out, if you have a lot of fabric in that corner, it won't give you a nice sharp point. So if you cut that corner, it'll be sharper when you turn it inside out. The corners will be sharper when you turn it inside out. And then, because I'm using a sheet and this will fray the second I put it in the washing machine, I did a zigzag stitch all the way around the edge just to kind of finish it and make it so that when I put it in the sewing machine, it will still stay nice and won't just fall apart. Okay, so now we're gonna turn it inside out, and you can actually stop here. You can make your sham look like whatever you want it to, but because I'm going for Grandma's guest room, I am going to add a crocheted trim. There we go, my pillow is turned inside out, my pillow sham. And so now to make the crochet trim, the first thing we have to do is make a way for the crochet to to the pillow. There has to be somewhere for the crochet to go. And that means we have to have a way of having little holes. So what we're gonna do is do a stitch called a blanket stitch all the way around. And what that consists of is one stitch that goes across, and then a stitch that goes down, and then another stitch that goes across, and then another stitch that goes down. And those stitches that go down will kind of create a little hole between the thread and the pillowcase that we can put a crochet hook through to make our crocheted trim. So you can do that by hand if you want to. I'm going to set my machine up here to do it. Now, if you have a machine that has speed controls so that you can adjust like the regular rhythm of your sewing machine, this would be a great place to use it because you kind of want to aim for uniform lengths and adjust the length if you need to so that it's long enough for you to get your crochet hook on. Okay, so with my sewing machine adjusted, I'm going to wiggle that seam right up to the very edge and then just start sewing, making sure that as I do, that down stitch doesn't touch the fabric. So the across stitch will touch and then the down stitch should be loose. So that's going to take some steering when I do that on my sewing machine so that the needle doesn't pick those little threads up at all. If you know how to crochet, this part will be so simple, but as a quick rundown, let me show you this slip knot. So you take the thread and you loop it over your fingers, cross one end over the other, and then with those fingers you reach through to grab the long tail and pull, and that's a slip knot. So you'll need that first to get your crochet started, and then once you put it on your hook, you can pull that long tail to get it up and tight. Now you can use whatever hook works for your yarn. I chose a really little one because some of my stitches here were pretty tight, and so I chose one that I could get through there easily. And so the first thing we're going to do is just one row of single crochet around the entire sham, and the pattern I have in mind is best in multiples of 6. So we're just kind of gonna, evenly space it as we go. We don't want to crochet so tight that it makes the sham fold in on itself, but we don't want it too loose either, and we want to reach that magic 6 number. So you just kind of count as you go, stick an extra one in here and there and to get the number you need. So to do our single crochet row, I'm going to have my yarn behind the sham and then put my hook in through those blanket stitches like that, wrap the yarn around and pull it through. So now I have 2 loops on the hook thanks to that blanket stitch. Wrap around one more time and pull the yarn through both. That is one single crochet, and I'm going to do that around the entire pillow. Like I said, just trying to space it out along the fabric so that it doesn't pull, and trying to reach that 6 number. I've done a row of single crochet all the way around the pillow, and now I'm back to where I started. So I'm going to have to connect these two together with a slip stitch. So all I'm doing is sticking my hook through that first loop. This is often the tightest, so it can take a little bit of wrestling. One loop over, pull it through, and then normally when you loop again to do a single crochet, for a slip stitch, you're just going to pull all the way through, and then you're connected. Now to start the next row, we're going to do some chain stitches, 4 of them. And so you just yarn over once and pull it through, and that's a chain stitch. So you do 4 of those. 3 and 4, and then you'll do a single crochet counting over 2. So you 1, 2, and in that third spot, 1, 2, 3, you'll do a single crochet. So push your hook through, yarn over again, and pull it through. And that's all there is. So now I'm going to chain 4 more. 4, 1, 2, third, chain over, and a single crochet. When I got to that corner, I did 6 chains so that I had a little bit more room to make around the corner without being too tight. And that gets me back to where I started. So here I'm going to, instead of doing a single crochet, I'm going to do another slip stitch. So I just pull it all the way through like that, and that finishes our second round. The third row is done exactly the same way as the second row, except for how you start. You have to start by doing 6 chains instead of 4. 1, 2, 3. So that you can build up before you go over. And then, since you don't have a row of single crochets anymore, the place where you go in is right through that loop. And you do a single crochet through the loop, and then it's back to business as usual. 4 chains. And then single crochet, but you'll do it through that big loop. Oh my gosh, I'm being the clumsiest crocheter because I'm trying to do this through my camera's viewfinder. Like that. Okay, so I'm gonna go all the way around, doing more, like another 6 for the corners, just like last time, until I can join up with that first loop. I know I said that when we got to the corners, we would just do 6 chains, but what I found worked even better since the rows are kind of growing out. I found I needed more room. So I did the 4 chains and 1 single crochet, and then I'm gonna do it again so that in the corners you have 2 sets of chains. 4 and well, the 2 single crochets. So you'll have this one, so you'll have that 1 chain that makes up that new corner. Now I'm back to where I started. So I'm gonna do 1 last set of 4 and then join it with another slip stitch. We've got 1 last row. So to start it, I'm gonna chain 4, just like I have been. And then in the next loop, I'll do a single crochet, just like before, and then another chain 4. This should all be very familiar by now. Okay, now we're going to start our big fancy fringe. So I'm gonna do 2 double crochets and then 1 chain and then 2 more double crochets within this loop. So for a double crochet, you start by yarn over through the loop, yarn over again. So you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over 1 more time. So now there's 4 loops on your hook. Pull that through 2, yarn over, pull it through 2. Okay, so let me show you that again. Yarn over through the hook, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, and then we'll do just 2 loops, yarn over, 2 loops. So then we'll do 1 chain and then 2 more double crochets. So basically the trick to remember is that when you're in doubt, yarn over. Yarn over at the beginning, push it through. Yarn over again, pull it up. Yarn over again, and then you start pulling through 2 at a time. And 1 more. Okay, so that's 2 double crochets, 1 chain, 2 more double crochets. So now we're gonna go back to our chain 4. And a single crochet in the next loop. Chain 4 again. And it's the double crochet again. So you're gonna keep doing that all the way around, alternating. The 1 loop gets the double crochet treatment, the next loop gets just 1 single crochet, and then double crochet, and so now this loop will just get the single crochet all the way back around. So here I am at my last stitch. I'm going to do a final chain 4. And then in this last little hole, I'm going to do a slip stitch. And I'm going to pull this yarn through, give myself a long tail, snip it off, and then pull that really tight. And that's it. I'm going to take a big needle and kind of weave this through to hide that end and make sure it's really secure. And then it's done, and I get to go decorate my guest room. I think this room is really starting to come together. There's a lot of touches that I want to add to the room, lots more art to get up on the walls and sweet little homey knickknacks. But I think these pillow shams really took this from a basically empty room into something that has some kind of a design direction. I just love how cozy and warm these shams make this bed feel. And I don't know, there's something about my living room I want fancy and designed, but there's something about a getaway bedroom that just, I want to be as old-fashioned and homey as possible, and I think that these shams can do it. So I hope you give it a try, especially if it's your first sewing project or your first crochet project. I think this is a great way to get your feet wet with those two mediums. And so leave me a comment if you have any questions, and if you have any ideas that you'd like my input on, I'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I almost forgot to say it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.